Let's finish it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Closing Pitch. My name is David Berkey, and this is a show about people, culture, and how to create a winning lifestyle. We have a full crew today. Spiker Helm sitting to my left, and non-intern Drew. Is that the exact title now?
Non-intern.
Non-intern Drew. Sitting across from me.
It's like Pokemon. It's like the evolution of Drew. And next,
you guys are starting to see him grow up.
it's gonna be Mary.
Makes me very proud.
He's gonna become Mary Drew, and then Dad Drew.
He has been dating the girl for a long time, right?
2 months.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, that is pretty long.
That is long in college life.
That is pretty long in college life.
Gotcha.
That's funny.
So today's format, we kind of alluded to this a little bit last time on the podcast, but we're going to try out a new, would you call this, Spike, a shorter form podcast?
we're doing a short form podcast. Try to get this thing under 20 minutes. No promises.
The title of this podcast, guys, is going to be 3 Strikes and We're Out, where we kind of pick 3 different topics or tweets or just trending subjects in our world of the baseball and softball space that we've seen over the past week. Something that maybe, got us heated up and a little bit fired up to talk about, or something that is just, overall being talked about by a lot of parents, players, and coaches.
And I wouldn't say it's all just about sports. I mean, it's just things that we find interesting that needs to be talked about. And we might not have all the answers. It's just more of like,
it's our opinions.
Yeah, opinions and kind of out there. I mean, I think a lot of people in the media space don't get to hit on a lot of the topics that you see through Twitter. And I think it would be a really good open forum type of deal. So I didn't even come up with the idea. You did.
Yeah, and even going forward, if you guys have a topic that you guys are passionate about at the moment and want to send it over, I mean, that's something I think that we would be totally welcome to getting, because, again, we always want input from our listeners. So anything you guys have or any cool topics that you have questions on and think would be great in this format, send it our way. We'll say our emails and our Twitter handles and everything at the end, but shoot it on over and we'll chat on it.
All right, first topic.
First topic is, well, it's actually your topic.
Yeah, so ranking youth players is dumb. Let the kids be kids. Things that matter more: education, grades, character, morals, curiosity, emotional development, leadership, charisma, and discipline. When typing up that tweet,
This is a Spiker tweet.
I was not thinking that this was going to catch fire. It was just literally something that I thought at the top of my head, because someone sent me a straw poll. Some adult created a straw poll of kids in the area, and like people were voting on these kids on like who was the best player.
Age group?
12, 13, 14, and then 15.
Okay.
Jeez.
And the reason that they were doing it was to promote their facility, and it was a marketing tactic. But for me, that just feels really odd that you don't know these players, and then you put out a ranking system of these kids, and then you pin against everyone against each other to vote for these players and try to get them to prop up who they are. And it's not like there's no validation or anything. It just seems like you're destroying, obviously, those kids that got picked. Like, they're probably like, oh, yeah, I got picked. But then, like, the kids that aren't in it, that makes me being like, I really don't want to be a part of this.
Well, I mean, it's crazy how young ranking systems are getting. I mean, it was back when I was playing, we didn't even have rankings in high school. It just didn't happen. The only rankings I ever knew of were, like, the Baseball America Top 100 for the draft. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing I ever knew about. But obviously, it's starting to trickle down, and you got, big ranking systems in the high school of PG, Perfect Game, and PBR, and they have state rankings, national rankings, regional rankings, and then, you start to see now, on social media, these guys coming out with 12U player rankings, which, I guess what caught you off guard and got you mad was, at what age is this appropriate? Where are we going to stop with this? Are we going to get down and wake up in 3 years and there's going to be 9U, player rankings for the first baseman in the area? That's going to be crazy.
And in my early days of my career, I started a website called tournamentguy.com, which was basically a listing service for tournaments. And there's a number of really cool services out there that still do that. We've shut our platform down. But we were really big in the social media space. We had a lot of following, and it allowed us to be in the conversations of a lot of top businesses that are out there. And a lot of those conversations did center around team rankings and player rankings. And when thinking about it, I never spoke up about like, is this really right? Like, are we really promoting the sport? Are we really bringing more people into our sport? Or are we kind of indirectly pushing people away from the sport because it's just not enticing? Like, I don't want to be ranked. I just want to enjoy the game and I want to play it and I want to have fun. And if you look at the data, there's a summit every year. They didn't have it last year. I think it was offline or online, and they didn't come in person. But it's a summit, and they have statistics on youth sports, and it's declining. Like, we have hard data that the participation rate in sports, youth sports, and in baseball has been declining, not increasing. We haven't seen those big number jumps to where we're bringing more people in, and kids are actually quitting the sport earlier, not staying in the sport. And if you look at the cutoff date, it seems like more kids, and we've talked about this in the podcast, more kids are quitting sports before the age of 14. Like, again, it's going to naturally happen over time because the game gets a little bit harder and your interest kind of weans off. But us adults are trying to make this be like ESPN or the pro circuit and ranking players and having conversation around these people. And what does that do to the mind of a 12 or 13-year-old kid who's getting voted on like he's a piece of meat? I just don't agree with it. And you might disagree with me. You might be like, well, I don't get it, Spike. You're kind of being over the top on it. But I always look at the data, and I'm big on trying to bring more people into the game. I take the Babe Ruth method, which is he was one of those people that I want every kid to have a bat and glove in their hand and play this sport. And he meant boys and girls. So that's the same thought process that I go in. I love the upper levels. I love elite baseball, and I love seeing that play out on a field because it's really enjoyable to watch. But at the same time, I still want to see Johnny, who's 7 years old, who is still trying to figure out how to run in a straight line.
So, I mean, so you guys coach all the way from 5U, 6U with the Tigers all the way to 18. So what age do you think it is time to lock in? Like, where they're developed enough to...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So I do think that there's a role for a ranking system at some point. You know, obviously... we ourselves with the Tigers, we're constantly promoting athletes who are ranked within, you know, the top 100 of perfect game or the top 20 in the state of PBR, and we can use those to kind of, you know, leverage their recruiting interest, right? So we do that at the high school level, and even for some of the guys who are lucky enough to be recruited prior to that, you know, that has been something that we've talked about. The problem that I have with these rankings at the youth levels, there's two things that I have an issue with. One, it's all subjective. There's no data points. There's not a lot of data points on these kids. There's not a lot of numbers, or really just you don't know because the competition level is so spread out too. You have no idea. So you're just throwing kids' names at a ranking system, and you know it's way too subjective to actually mean anything more than a look at me. I'm on a top 10.
It's board. A popularity contest.
It's a popularity
contest. And don't get me wrong, I like rankings. I like competition. I just think that there is an age. If we were able to come up with a method that could come up with saying, yeah, these kids are where they are based on this, I'm totally cool with that because there is a base metric behind that and it's tangible and people can grow into those metrics. I just think it is totally messed up that a 34 or 40-year-old man comes up with a popularity contest and says, all right, here are the kids. Now, parents, come on in and vote for it and screw everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you really are playing. I mean, the parents that you're kind of playing at them on that, right? I mean, they're going to feed into that. Every parent wants to see their son on that type of a ranking. Whether it's subjective, whether it's right, wrong, or otherwise, you're certainly playing at those strings. The other thing that I don't necessarily agree with is, should that necessarily be the focus at that age group? Like, I don't know if I would love it if one of our players at a 12U ranking was ranked within the top 10 of his class in the state, because I don't want that dude to even remotely think that he's done growing and getting better and that he's made it or anything else like that. Like,
it affects your head. It affects your headspace.
Yeah.
Like if you affect that headspace, if you go super negative on someone, their confidence is going to be completely shot. If you go fully on positivity, full go, that person's ego is going to be totally out of proportion.
Right.
But you want them to have that ego, just not to a point where they think that they're almost God. And it's a male brain doesn't fully develop until I think it's 25 to 30. Someone can catch me on that.
Yes,
and a female's in the same range. You are starting to gather your thoughts on who you are. You're exploring your body. You're exploring your mind. You're trying to figure out what is this and that. And then you have these adults who know better and have fully developed brains and can actually make a thought of their own, and then they put it on to that kid.
Well, I mean, even to me, it's, I'm not saying we shouldn't highlight some of their successes.
Oh no, that's not what I'm saying.
That is definitely not the message, and those things need to be highlighted, and especially on a team level, because this is a team sport and we're really trying to push that and promote it. I just don't know if that's necessarily the route yet. Because in order, I guess I kind of take those ranking systems as they should be fairly real, right? I mean, they're always going to have some subjectivity to them. I mean, we even look at high school ones and you're kind of wondering, what is that dude doing there? Like, there's always that guy, but they're closer. Like, your top 10 in the PBR rankings of Missouri for juniors is pretty close. Like, you're not really missing dudes there. You know what I'm saying? So that's all.
There's not going to be a system out there that's going to be totally perfect. I mean,
it's just a talking point.
I do say that Perfect Game has gone down the youth team rankings, and I haven't dug completely deep into it, but it does seem like a legitimate system where you have to play our events to get ranked. I'm totally fine with that because they can control who plays who, and they can figure out what team has actually beat certain teams. Where if I just come up, like there's some websites that go out there and be like, all right, the Rawlings Tigers 12U team is ranked number 1. Well, how the hell did you figure that out? Yeah. Like they could have played a AA event and they beat all these teams and they're 34-0. How do you know that team's number 1? But then this other team who plays all major events has traveled all across the country and they're just below 500. I'm sure that team could beat the team that was 34-0 that played AA events. So there's too many variables. It's a wicked type of environment. It's not conventional, where if you have tennis or golf, those things are pretty conventional when it comes to an environment because it's mano a mano. You're facing one person against another, and there is actually a circuit there.
And I'd also, if I'm talking to a younger player, a younger team too, I'd give the same approach that I would with our high school athletes that are in that process right now. Take it for what it is. It's a nice gesture, and it's a nice thing to be able to say, but it doesn't give you the whole picture. And keep working. Take it with a grain. Take it with what it is for right now, and who it's coming from, and the sources that produce it. But it certainly plays really next to no role in where your future is going to go. That's still you in the day-to-day and going through it. So, okay, take a little second to pat yourself on the back, but then at the end, kind of move on. And
just think of like the guys who were 12U, 13U that were the best kids on the team when like we played.
Yeah.
Well, it was like, okay, a lot of those guys didn't play college baseball. They, it was a decline. So it's just a question of, is this useful or is it just a waste of time?
There's so many guys I could name in my age group that got pushed like that, where they got so much praise and then they plateaued. Like they didn't work at all.
13 years old.
And if I was a parent that my kid was on that list, I would probably take the same approach that Dave just said, which is like, hey, it's a good gesture, but doesn't mean anything. The guy's trying to push his facility.
Exactly.
And I'd tell my kid that. He's trying to push his facility. He's trying to market his facility and call it for what it is, because that's what it is. It's a marketing tactic. Second topic, which is, oh, God, I don't have my
I got it right here.
Go for it.
So this was a video that popped up on my screen this morning on Instagram, posted by Barstool Sports, and it was a caption. It's about a 20-second video of a youth baseball dad coach who is going ballistic at the umpires, making a complete shit show of the entire deal. I think he started off the video laying down, covering home plate up in dirt, then getting in the umpire's face, yelling in front of everybody. There are kids on the field. The opposing coach is literally looking at him like, what are you doing? And the caption was, take it easy, Dad. They're 11.
Go ahead and play the video. And then if you're watching this, obviously you're going to see the video. We'll play the audio in the background so you guys can kind of get a gist of it.
Wow. Why are you tossing? Because you're awful and you missed that one and you just wanted to go, get your money's worth. You think everybody paid admission to watch you? Hey, there's kids out here, man. Hey, be a role model.
Yeah,
that goes on the same point of the participation rate in youth sports has declined because you have people that get too emotionally invested into the situation. Bro, this isn't professional baseball. This isn't college baseball. You are not getting paid. You're a volunteer coach, and you are making a clown out of yourself. If I was a kid and that was my dad, I would freak out. I'd be like, I don't want to play anymore.
Well, there's zero place in amateur sports for this. Zero, in my opinion. Absolutely zero. And I can't tell you, over my 12-plus years of being on the other side, being a coach, not a player, and I can tell you as a player, many more stories, but of how many times, whether it be on the youth side or the high school side, that you just see dads or coaches going into these blow-up episodes, losing their mind over a game that they're not going to remember 3 months from now, let alone a year, and just literally acting like the most immature idiots on the field for stupid reasons, like, I got to protect my team, I got to do this, or that umpire's out to get us, or that, and it's so ridiculously wrong, in my opinion, that if you ever see someone, just think about, what are you there for as a coach? Are you there to yell at the umpire? Do you really think the umpire came out with the idea that day that I'm going to come over and I'm going to screw that team? Do you really think that they're going to do that? Do you really think that, it's a good role model, that you're setting those kids up, that in another situation of their life that they're not going to act out like that because they've seen an adult do it? I mean, do you really think those things? I've never once in my entire time gotten close to that.
Well, I would just like to note that Spiker did this every single game, our 15 and 16 year. Like, it was bad. Like, even the players were like, come on, Spike. Quit throwing bases and bats all over the field. So this is really interesting to hear.
It is a complete clown show. I just have no tolerance for it. And if it was some coach in our organization if that was him, I mean, we'd have to have a serious discussion about them not coaching in our organization again, because I just feel so strongly against it.
I always thought about it as the umpires are trying to provide a service, and they're trying to do the best that they possibly can. Now, there are some umpires out there that are not very good at their jobs, but that's what happens when you have an umpire shortage. You're not going to get the best guys that are going to be out there just because there's not a great supply. And the reason there's not a great supply is because you have clowns like that we just played that make a huge mockery out of the game. And to give some more context to why managers in professional baseball and college baseball do that is because it's their job. They get paid. They have to find a way to win the game. And again, at some level, it's not, you don't want that out of a manager. But at the same time, there's some stress that's involved. Like there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on to actually win baseball games. And when you feel like you're not getting the right call and that guy is getting paid the same amount of money that you are, that's where it gets they get a little stressed out. And like, I need this call. And the only time that they really do that is it's on occasion. But the reason that we feel like it happens all the time is because ESPN highlights it. It doesn't happen that often. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't. If you think about just managers in general, how many times does a manager get kicked out of a game? Maybe once a year, twice a year, 5 times max, maybe. because they're getting fined for it too, but they know the cost of what they're doing. There is no cost involved for a youth baseball coach to argue a call. The only thing that you really have to deal with is scrutiny from your parents. That's about it. You don't get fired. You don't get fined. So there's no repercussion for it, and it needs to stop. And I don't know what we have to do to stop that, because we can't just fine these coaches. Like, I mean, they're volunteers. You can kick them out of a game, but that's not a big repercussion, because like, oh yeah, I'll just be back tomorrow, or I'll be back the next day, or the next day, or the following day. Like, they don't care. So I just, it hurts me that we've talked about player rankings. We've talked about this deal. And that's why I feel that participation is actually down and not up. Because we have parents that think that this is professional and college baseball. It's not.
Yeah. No place for it, in my opinion.
Nope.
Last topic, virtual coaching. I love this topic. It's tech. I love every part of this. And there's a lot of interesting companies out there that are pushing the envelope on technology, Blast Motion being one of them. Just had a conversation with the engineer for the sensor side of things for Blast. Win Reality is doing some interesting things. And then obviously with Oculus and Meta, formerly known as Facebook, I think it's a possibility. I'm not in the full camp of it, because there's some things that need to happen for that to be a reality. I just think that it's easier to be in the cage with somebody and being able to develop that relationship. But if you start narrowing the gap on that, where I can still develop a relationship through augmented reality or virtual reality, who knows? I could be just teaching in my bedroom or my living room.
Yeah, it's already possible currently.
There's a number of companies that are
virtual coach.
There are a number of companies out there that already do it. Yes. I just don't think it's there. I think
that with the pandemic, it kind of came to a forefront a little bit sooner than maybe it would have. There's different, like you had mentioned with all those companies, there's different ways to reach people outside of your area. Which I think there's a value to it.
Well, before we thought that telehealth was not a thing, and now it is definitely a thing, where I can just literally call in and get my symptoms checked in, and then they don't really need to touch me and see me, and I can get a prescription.
Yeah. I just don't, I guess I don't have a right answer on it. I think it's going to come, and I think that anybody who fights it is going to ultimately probably be on the wrong side of it. But I always think there's going to be a balance between virtual and then in person. I mean, I don't think you can ever break from that relationship bond that you can create in person, because it's so hard to do that virtually. It's really difficult.
It's not there yet. There are some people that are saying that it's here. It's not. Like, if you go on Oculus and if you've ever been to like a concert in there, it's literally, you have half a body. You're looking at like, oh, hey, this is a great concert. You have no legs. Like, that's the thing.
I have not been in there. So.
I have not done that either, yeah.
And the Oculus system is just cumbersome. It wears on you. It kind of feels tight. I just don't think it's there yet, but I think it's quickly approaching.
So what if you guys draw it back to just like video coaching through, videos, text messages, stuff like that? Because like a previous pitching program I went to over COVID, they had a kid who did that, and they'd send videos, send different angles, stuff like that. And even though the kid wasn't coming into the facility, he still, I think, jumped like 3 or 4 miles an hour. Now he's at a successful D2, like made a pretty big jump.
I look at it as it's a tool, right? And we don't necessarily know exactly how that tool is going to be used, but I don't want to count it out either. Like, if there can be some benefit added, some value added to the situation that I'm currently in, whether I'm a coach or a player, then I definitely always want to keep that option open and keep that door open.
I view it as a pricing problem, a value problem, and also the individual. So online classes, I hated online classes when I was in school. I just thought it was annoying. Like, I just didn't have any an engine to go. You probably have felt the same way.
Oh yeah.
In classes.
I didn't like them at all.
But I love YouTube. I love my Real Vision subscription. I've taken online courses from the top people in their field, and I'll do that more often.
Yeah, like those master classes.
I'll even pay for it. Yeah. Like I'm learning from the best
Those
person.
are huge now.
Oh yeah. I'm learning from the best person on photography.
And there's a ton of the, not necessarily in our space, but there's a ton of online like life coaches and, mentorship programs and things like that where they're meeting virtually every single night through different formats, and they're talking about things. And some of the guys we follow do that and run programs for, business owners and things like that. So it's here. It's going to happen. It's just how quickly is it adopted?
It's going to be the first person that's able to figure out education and entertainment through a one-to-one interaction online. That's what's going to come down to.
So would you guys get coached virtually by like an MLB coach or something when you were playing?
If I was playing, I had an online coach at Missouri State on mental training inside of hitting, because I was struggling with staying relaxed in the box, and I couldn't unlock the thing that I needed for the left side of my swing. So I was a switch hitter. So right side was perfectly fine. I felt normal. I felt confident. But on the left side, I just couldn't unlock the power, and I couldn't unlock the consistency. And his name's Buddy Biancalana, and he played for the Kansas City Royals, and he was running an online program, which was kind of experimenting and doing a lot of things. And it worked. It unlocked it for me. I did it for a month, and we had 2-3 virtual meetings where it was video, and we'd talk things through. He would watch my swing and be like, hey, think about it this way, do this. And it was a huge unlock. I'm a prime example. That was back in 2012.
I think it would have been, at what point in my career would you have been asking me that question?
Yeah.
Because at an older age, whether I'm in, late high school or even in college, yeah, I might be able to take audio cues and verbal cues from a coach, because you can't teach feel through that. That's going to be a hard thing, right? That's really hard to kind of to teach, because you're not there in person with them and you're not seeing that live. But at some point, yeah, I think that, again, it's with the tech that's coming through, like now with Win Reality, it's, I believe you can feel stuff, you can see stuff like it's real, right? So I guess it's at what age, because at a really young level, like let's say you're trying to do that with a younger kid, you're not going to capture his attention.
No.
That's hard enough in a 30-minute lesson to do that.
Also deals with the player's want on it. How bad do you want it? If I'm in the desert, money has no value to me, but water has a lot of value to me because I'm in desperation to be hydrated, right? So with hitting at Missouri State, I was in desperation to figure something out because I was on the chopping block. I had a conversation with Coach Gutton. He's like, if you don't figure out how to hit on the left side against right-handed pitching, I'm sitting you on the bench. I was like, oh, that's not good. Yeah. So I did everything to figure out how to make that work. And literally my dad ran across Buddy's website and saw him speak. I think it was on YouTube. And he was like, hey, I want your services. And it was a huge unlock.
I think you're right, though, spot on. Whenever the entertainment factor catches up with the tech, I think that's going to just push this thing going so much faster. Because it's almost got to be like video game-esque. So when you're kind of logging into it and getting ready to go learn something, it's got to be fun and entertaining.
Well, speaking with Jacob on Blast, the problem that they're having with Win Reality, just his humble opinion on the outside perspective when you think about virtual reality and being in reality, is that the algorithm and the system has to be so spot on to give you immediate feedback on like contact. Because if your timing is not right on the game and then someone tries to do that in the real world and it's off by just a hair, your whole timing is going to be jacked up when you get out onto the field. So they can't, they're trying to experimenting, trying to figure out how to match the metrics and the feel of a bat and the Oculus system. And it's just very fascinating because it's going to get there. It's just, it has to be 100% right to make it work.
Yeah, I agree.
So
it's going to be a part of it, whether you like it or not. So
what is your number? How many years do you think it's going to take?
I would say with the way things are going quicker, and I think, I'm not a huge metaverse fan, but I think that stuff's going to happen. And I mean, 2-3 years, I think you're having a different conversation. I don't think it'll be fully adopted, but I think they'll have some early adopters go a lot quicker into it.
What's your take? You're younger than us, and I mean,
yeah.
you've lived in this world. You don't even know what it was like without a smartphone.
No, but you guys were also, carving your stuff on rocks and stuff. So. But no, I'm just thinking like, I think COVID really accelerated all this tech stuff of not having to be somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, 1-2 years. I mean, Facebook, Meta, and all them, they have so much money involved into it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
It'll be fun to see.
There's just so many different aspects of it. But what's your number?
It all depends on Apple. That's the big company that I'm thinking is going to make a big splash. There've been rumors on the augmented reality glasses. Hopefully it's not a bust like the Google glasses. Remember those?
No.
Google glasses came out 5 years ago, and it was just a huge bust. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, it didn't do much. It was slow. It didn't really have augmented reality. It was just basically a screen right in front of you. If Apple figures out how to get projections out there and you're able to interact with it. I mean, Snapchat is another company that's working really heavily on it. So if you have a three person race right now between Facebook, Snapchat, and Apple, it could happen in 3 years, and then it explodes, and then next thing you know, we're in a augmented world in 5 years. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, I'm actually going to change mine a little bit further. I think it's going to take longer than what I said, because the way I've always thought about tech, and especially in our space, is it's always a trickle down from the top to the bottom. It goes to the top first, your major league levels, the people who have the money to invest in it, and then they find a way to make a cheaper alternative for the masses. And then it's the same thing here. Like, they're going to explore in different areas where they're going to actually make a lot more money than just youth sports. And then it'll trickle down to youth sports with products.
Well, that's what I think about the iPhone. When Steve Jobs came out with the iPhone, it was just like, it was a shocking moment. It was I remember when it came out, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I can have music and my contacts and my camera in one device. What? That is mind-boggling. How did he do that? It's going to happen with glasses. It has to. It's going to be one of those things where it's something that we didn't even think about happening, and then people are going to build on top of this thing, and it's just going to be exponential.
So when is the Metaverse first closing pitch podcast
No.
episode, where you guys are
Never.
wherever and just holograms?
Never.
Never?
I don't.
Never.
All right.
I won't be a part of it. Spiker will have a different host.
I'll be all in on augmented
Joe
reality.
Rogan.
I'll be all in on virtual reality and augmented reality. I know I'm in the minority when it comes to this. I just think it's inevitable, and I feel like there's going to be more progress than decline when it comes to that stuff. I do think that we'll have to figure out how to interact with each other a little bit better. I do think that's going to get lost, but again, it always swings really heavy one way, and then you have to swing it back the other way, and there's going to be a plateau period. So my bet's on human beings, and we're going to figure it out. I know that it is kind of scary going down an area where it's totally virtual, and we're trying to figure out how to actually interact with each other.
Yeah, but people have gotten better with Zoom and stuff just because they had to from COVID.
They could figure out the mics.
So it's the same thing.
That was so tough, because when we were doing the regional program and starting out, it was so difficult to get somebody on Skype and get them to actually know how to use it. It was so hard. Like, we would have to explain them through the phone, like, all right, you got to do this, and then you got to download it, and then when you download it, you're going to pull it up, and then we'll be able to go. And then they couldn't figure out the mic, and then they couldn't figure out the camera system, and it's just like, oh, geez, this is so rough.
Yeah, at some point people will figure it out. Yeah. It'll take some time for, the younger generations will get it because they're used to it through school and stuff, but just like anything, people will get better if it helps them.
Well, it helps the travel salesman too. Like, I was thinking just from a business standpoint, like, I don't have to hop on a plane and go all the way to San Francisco or
instant meeting.
New York. I can have an instant meeting. Like, what it does do is, if you're able to jump on a plane and go somewhere, that is valued way more than it was in the past. that's where it's going to value it. So there is some give and take. So if we do live in a virtual coaching world, and then you end up running a program, we're like, all right, I'll do virtual coaching for 3 weeks, and then I'll come visit you for a week. That would be a game changer, and people would jump in on that.
Yeah. The time, money spent, invested in someone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, those 3 topics, guys. I kind of like that format. What'd you think?
That's
Not
3
too bad.
strikes.
Three strikes and we're out.
There you go. You did your closing the deal. That's what you were waiting for.
Yeah, where we deep dive into 3 topics. I thought those were 3 really good topics. I thought we had some good points on it. And guys, if you are listening and you have a topic that you want us to talk about on the closing pitch in this new format of a show that we're going to be putting out alongside with our long form content and everything else that we do in our interviews, send it in. My email is at dburkby@rawlingstigers.com. Spikers is at spiker@rawlingstigers.com. And
Drew is what do you
I don't have an email yet.
You can
That's the next step.
that's the evolution.
Yeah, that's the
email Drew. Guys, also, I want to stress that this is opinion. This is not fact. This is just conversation. So please don't go and think, oh, this is exactly fact. No, it's opinion, and it's just our thoughts on the topic and our experiences. Everyone has their own experiences, their own thoughts on certain topics. That's why we want you to jump in on this conversation. Write us a review, send us a tweet, send us an email. We love hearing about it. And also, if you guys live here in St. Louis and you come to the Rawlings Training Center and you see us in the cages, come by and talk to us about it as well. So with that said,
we are out.
See ya.
See you guys.